Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. It's time for Coteries of New York, episode 2. Oh, no. That's a new game. Load. That was close. Okay, I think last we left off, we had just done our first friend quest. We went on a mission with Agathon, and who I love. Yep, we're gonna rest. Ooh. Go back! You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. A letter's been slipped under the door in a cream-colored, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Yeah, 'cause I live here. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by somebody incredibly old-fashioned, rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is short and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You are cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There is no other information. Looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. Yes! I love the dude who sent that. Okay. What should we do next? Should we just go right into the God shit, or should we meet D'Angelo maybe? Finally? I want to meet D'Angelo, yeah. As you make your way down Clinton Street, the incessant hum of traffic gives way to the ominous silence of the waterfront. You stop to take in the familiar bouquet of the Hudson, made all the more potent by your recently sharpened senses. Across the basin, the Red Hook grain terminal rears its rusty frame. Once a bustling industrial area, now a sleeping giant splayed out on the riverbank. Forgotten, abandoned. Conveniently so, especially for one of the hidden. Keeping to the shadows, you sneak closer to the dilapidated complex, making your way past hole-ridden silos and wobbly chain-link fences. Here I go, stumbling. By the time you reach the entrance to the main building, you can almost feel the rust particles making themselves cozy at the back of your throat. Yeah. Not getting your hopes up, you give the door a slight nudge. To your surprise, it gives almost instantly. Looks like somebody's been using it recently. Once inside, you find yourself in a large, empty hall. Looking around, you can almost picture it back in its heyday, stacked to the rafters with heavy machinery. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine? Mezzanine? I don't know, I've never heard that pronounced before. I don't know if I've seen it written either. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine, ? Most likely an office space. And then you see it, a faint light coming from one of the upper rooms. Looks like you're in luck. Quietly, with bated breath, you climb the steps and approach the dimly lit room. The door creaks open, revealing what looks like an old-timey detective's office, complete with crooked window blinds, an overflowing ashtray, and paper scattered across a wooden desk. Suddenly it hits you, that nagging feeling. This is all too convenient, too inviting. Before you can react, the trap is already sprung. A plume of cigar smoke wafts over your shoulder. The barrel of a gun rubs against your spine. A raspy voice whispers in your ear. Let me guess. Took a wrong turn at the third silo? Driven by a strange hunch, you open your mouth. You hear yourself talking, but the words are not yours. These seem to be coming from the deepest recesses of your memory, a movie you saw as a child. You don't know why, but it seems oddly appropriate. I know what you're thinking. This punk ain't got nothing on me. I'm sitting pretty on a loaded Colt detective special, 5 in the cylinder, 1 in the chamber, and I only need the 1. As corny as it all sounds, the stranger seems oddly receptive to your tough guy monologue, so you decide to bump it up a notch. Focusing your will, you boost your aura, filling the room with your presence. Your voice becomes smooth, oozing with charisma, a regular Sam Spade. You yourself can't help but feel a sense of awe. Hopefully the stranger feels it too. But then there's that nagging feeling. What if there's more to this guy than he lets on? What if he's got me right where he wants me? Maybe I should hear what he has to say. Is that right? Yeah. So how about we drop the tough guy act and talk like adults? You can always shoot me once we're done. For a few tense seconds, the room grows quiet. So quiet, in fact, you could swear you can actually hear the smoke swirling in the air. Finally, the stranger speaks again. You got a point there, kid. In a strange interplay of light and shadow, the stranger reappears behind his desk. Seeing him in his full, for lack of a better word, glory, you can't help but smirk. This is the dreaded Nosferatu? The way Sophie described them, you were expecting some grotesque monstrosity. But this guy, the clothes, the swagger, the hard-boiled detective routine, it all comes across as a bad joke. Still, when it comes to appearance, his lineage is undeniable. From 30 feet away, he could probably pass for a bum with a nasty skin condition. From 5 feet away, he looks like something made to be seen from 30 feet away. Hey, that's my husband you're talking about. He leans back in his chair, casually pointing his gun at you. So, what brings you to my humble office? I'm looking for a Nosferatu. I'm guessing you're it. It? Him. Excuse me, him. Now that's some detective work. What tipped you off? The glowing complexion? He pauses to peel a flake of dead skin off his cheek. Or the $1 million smile. He smiles at you, showing off a set of gums that would make a cadaver dry heave. Charming. I can see why Kadir keeps you around. His expression sours. Not a name you want to casually toss around, kid. But hey, I get it. You're not some random schmuck who wandered in here off the street. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Name's D'Angelo. Gin to my friends, so you can call me D'Angelo. Who I work for is less important. What I'm working on, however. The Red Hook murders, I know. I want to help you catch the killer. His moldy lips twist into a smile. Do you now? D'Angelo lowers his shades. For a few seconds, he sits motionless with his eyes fixed on yours. Suddenly, he raises his gun, almost making you flinch. Almost. Then, he twirls it into a shoulder holster in a flashy display that definitely looks like it was practiced. A lot. In front of a mirror. You see the Nosferatu's lips move, but the quiet mumbling clearly isn't meant for your ears. Listening in, you're able to catch snippets of his monologue. Sure, they seem to care. What was the endgame? What was their angle? Everybody's got one, even if they pretend they don't. Especially then. What the hell? Maybe this town finally got to me. He pauses, sticks a fresh cigar between his crooked teeth. Maybe a good leap of faith is just what the doctor ordered. As he reaches into his pocket, you flash a lit lighter before his eyes. Or maybe you could use a healthy dose of unhealthy. For a split second, he gives you a puzzled look. Then he leans over to your lighter, puffing on the cig as it catches fire. A wry smile comes back to his lips. I like you, kid. You might look like a used car salesman, but there's just something about you. Okay, that's strange. Never heard that before. Tell you what. I was just about to head back to the crime scene, take a look around, refresh my notes. You can tag along if you want to. I could use an assistant, someone to take notes and make wild assumptions for me to shoot down. Who knows, if you're any good, I might consider making this a long-term arrangement. What are we waiting for? Just one more thing. You still got me at a disadvantage here. Seems like you've done some digging on me, but with you, I've barely scratched the surface. You catch my drift? So answer me this. Who is it that sent you into my neck of the woods? Or, in layman's terms, who do you work for? Sophie Langley. For the first time since you got here, the Nosferatu adopts a look of genuine surprise. His eyes wander for a moment, finally giving way to a crooked smile. So you're the one, huh? The fledgling the Toreador dame spared. Yeah, that would make sense. Don't think she'd appreciate you throwing her name around. Thanks for being upfront, kid. One blink is enough for you to miss D'Angelo vanishing from his chair. Just when you're about to look around, he appears right next to you. Up close, his smile is even more unnerving. Alright, moonlight's burning. Let's get crackin'. With a certain fascination, you watch D'Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Oddly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for a bout of mumbling narration. He is most certainly a sight to behold. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There is definitely a method to his madness. Eventually, your leper's guide takes a sudden turn off Van Brunt Street and into a particularly dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place. Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes. This is where they found him, drained dry, not a drop of blood in him. And before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there are any bite marks. So, what can you tell me? You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline on the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera, and you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It reads, "The Blood Speaks," in big, crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo. The Nosferatu gives you an expecting look. You point at the spray-painted sign. That looks like a clue. Sure, kid, might as well start with the elephant in the room. What do you think it means? You give the sign a good hard look. It's no Rembrandt. The writing is jagged, clearly done in a hurry. It seems desperate. My thoughts exactly. It's as if someone wanted to get the message across, but was too scared to stick around and write the whole damn book. So we got the abridged version. And then there's the blood, or lack thereof. Given that the murder was committed right here and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that the killer was Kindred. Bingo. Only Kindred could drain a human this quickly, this quietly. Tell me, if you were to guess, which clan would you say our killer belongs to? I've never chosen the Tremere option. I'm gonna see what he says. Wait, aren't the Tremere known as blood sorcerers? This was probably some fucked up ritual of theirs. The Warlocks do tend to get creepy at times, but they're not exactly the Manson family. It's just not their style. I might be jumping to conclusions, but my money's on the Thin Bloods. He pauses, spits out the mangled remains of a cigar. Shit, looks like we're gonna have to pay Larson a visit. Larson, the Thin Blood Primogen? No, Larson the bicycle repairman. Of course the Thin Blood fucking Primogen. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'd be doing him a favor. If it turns out one of his is violating the Masquerade, it would put him in a hell of an awkward position. And I mean shitting upside down awkward. You say some weird shit. It's the kind of weakness the other Primogen would love to exploit. His position on the council is bad as it is. He pauses for a moment and mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar. He takes a puff and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile. Alright, kid, let's get this over with. Compared to the industrial ugliness of Red Hook, Sterling Place is quite a change of scenery. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for things to come. This is the place. With that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking two-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of an upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially if the head of the family happens to be a vampire. Okay, kid, we gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet gloves, soft cushions, you rang my lord gentle. We need to get Larson out here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like a speakeasy on raid night. Trust me, I know. Sounds like you two have some history. Sounds about right, but that's a story for another time. Right now, let's stick to why we're here. Tell you what, how about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you handle it. You take a step back and look around the area. The lit-up window seems like a safe bet. Now it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention. His and no one else's. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you are suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog's barking. It doesn't take you long to figure out where it came from, as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. This is a stupid idea, but I mean, look at the blood on the screen. I'm hungry. As you turn towards the man with the dog, D'Angelo gives you a worried look. Kid? Shushing him with a gesture, you plunge into the shadows and crouch behind a well-trimmed hedge. True to his word, D'Angelo follows your lead, though he doesn't seem too happy about it. You best not be thinking what I think you're thinking. You tense up, waiting for the man to get closer. When he does, you spring from the darkness, grabbing both of his arms and sinking your teeth into his neck. His blood gushes into your mouth, thick with surprise and laced with just enough fear. It's so quick and yet so sublime. The man goes limp. His best friend does not. The dog goes off on a barking spree that would make a dead man cover his ears. You tear away from your victim, ready to let the beast loose on the hapless canine. D'Angelo, however, is quick to curtail your murderous appetite. The detective approaches the animal, looking it straight in the eyes. He mumbles something under his breath, an oddly melodic whisper. Mesmerized by the chant, the dog grows quiet and lays on its back, allowing D'Angelo to pat its belly. Aww. Suddenly you notice lights turning on in some of the houses. D'Angelo gives you an angry look and points to the unconscious man in your arms. Get him out of sight, now. Heeding his advice, you hoist the man over your shoulder and carry him to the nearest bush. Just as you're getting up, a very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck approaches D'Angelo. He doesn't seem happy to see him. Are you fucking insane? I mean, I know you are, but this is nuts even by your standards, D'Angelo. You glance over to D'Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. Hey Larson, sorry about the fuss, but we needed to get your attention. By feeding right next to my house? What the hell is wrong with you? Get the hell out of here. We will, once you tell us all you know about the Red Hook murders. The what? What in the hell are you blabbing about? D'Angelo, what's going on here? It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible. Bullshit. The Duskborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out there. What could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade? Desperation? The killer's been leaving messages. Whoever they are, I think they know something. Something they can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way this puzzle fits together. Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching. Trying to find a scapegoat. Get in your boss's good graces. Word gets around, D'Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for? And help us clear your people's name. What have you got to lose? Everything. I've been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me. What if it turns out one of yours did it and you sat on your hands to protect him? You think the council won't jump on that? He looks off into the darkness, pondering his options. He lets out a heavy sigh. Look, I'll ask around, consult my sources. If it turns out one of my own is responsible, they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is. Deal. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my family. And with that, Larson retreats to the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, the Nosferatu stops and turns towards you. Jesus. Hell of a night. I don't know about you, kid, but I could sure use a drink. Something warm, in a tall, sweaty glass. Ew. But first, let me tell you your score. Let's see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking's cheap. Bullets, not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own, but hey, we can't all be professionals. Finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Did I? Discretion is what separates a private dick from just any old dick. All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it get to your head. I'll be in touch. Let you know if I hear from Larson. Be ready to meet me at the office. He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back toward you. And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one. And that was D'Angelo. Quite a first impression. Okay, what next? I'm gonna do Faith and Myth. Let's go see who sent us that letter. You haven't been to a church since you became a vampire, or kindred as the euphemism goes. You've had to focus on concrete, practical things like survival and feeding. You've learned the essentials of the vampire experience, but you don't really have a clear idea of what it all means. The Cathedral of St. John the Divine is a New York landmark. You've been inside once before when you were much younger. You marveled at its Gothic facade. Looking at it now from across the street, it feels ominous. The prospect of an anonymous invitation to a secret meeting is a worrying one, but the venue is well chosen. It's hard to imagine a violent attack in a place like this, with eyes everywhere. You enter the cathedral discreetly. You've quickly learned this is an essential skill for a vampire, how to move without anyone noticing you. The full force of the cathedral's architecture hits you as you walk between the pews. If the architect meant to create the feeling of being small in the face of God's glory, mission accomplished. Based on the note, you're assuming that whoever you're meeting is somewhere in the front. As you step closer to the high altar, it feels as if something is dragging at your feet, as if the stone beneath you resisted your movement. It occurs to you that many people might consider you a satanic creature, a vampire as you are. In movies, vampires can't enter a church. They're burned by a cross. Yet here you are. That means it's okay, right? There's an old man sitting in the front. You see only the back of his head, bowed down in silent prayer. Your footsteps echo on the floor, and he turns to look at you. You can't take your eyes off him. He's tall, dignified, white hair balding, a few strands escaping to the sides. He's wearing glasses and simple clerical clothing. His eyes are warm and pale, too kind for someone like you. Something is wrong. You feel heavy, as if a giant hand was pressing you down. The skin on your face is burning. Perhaps unconsciously, you expected something like this, as a vampire walking into a cathedral. Only it's not the building or God making you feel like you're burning alive. It's the man, the priest. Welcome, my child. The priest's tone is kind, but the rising panic inside you is telling you that kindness is not meant for the likes of you. The only way to understand these painful feelings is to push forward and confront the priest. As you step closer to the priest, panic rises inside you. The emotions are hard to control. Fear, anger, pain, all trying to wrestle you in different directions. Away. Can I help you? Are you okay? The priest talks to you like he would a lost vagrant who has chosen to enter the house of God. Please, it hurts. Sit down and tell me what's wrong. It's simply too much. You mutter something incoherent in reply. You don't sound like a vampire, an undead being made powerful by immortal blood. You're just another sad, confused, lost soul. You turn around and stagger away, only feeling like yourself once you're back on the street outside. You stand on the sidewalk confused and scared. No enemies seem to be attacking you. The priest didn't follow you. The night air is wet with the smells of the city, the same as every night. How did it feel? You look at the man speaking to you. He's well-dressed, if a little archaic. Dark-haired. Handsome, like a character from an old movie. He smiles as if he knows something you don't. You glance around. There are people on the street. You don't appear to be in immediate danger. Did you do this to me? No, absolutely not. Let me introduce myself. My name is Benoit Segal. I apologize to French people if that pronunciation was terrible. We share many things in common, even if you don't know me. Benoit offers his hand to you. Benoit's handshake is firm and dry. He looks at you intently, as if trying to find something in your eyes. Would you mind sitting with me for a moment? Benoit points to a park bench nearby, in darkness because of a broken streetlight. Wary, you decide to follow him. Only an enemy totally unconcerned with the masquerade would attack you here. Benoit sits down and you follow suit. For a moment, you both contemplate the cathedral in silence. I know how it feels, what you just felt. I've experienced it myself many times. For a moment, you consider how to respond. It's clear Benoit sent the invitation to come here and orchestrated this little setup. What's the point? Why did you go to the trouble of getting me here? We share a connection, you and I. I'll explain it later, but right now the important thing is that it's so much easier to show than tell. I wanted you to meet Father Anthony, or see him, experience him. Did you wonder why it felt like that? At first I thought it was because I was in a church, but then I realized it came from him, a priest. I think you're right, it does come from him. It's his faith that makes you feel like that. He's safe in his belief while you are one of the damned. Do you ever wonder what's the role of a vampire in God's creation? You stop to think. Of course you've wondered what this is all about. Whether it's about God or nature, you don't really know what being a vampire means. That's the trouble with the Masquerade. A human faced with a human problem can go online and find something that helps. You can't. The Masquerade means that everything there is to know about your condition is secret, hidden away. You're left relying on the unreliable opinions of people like Benoit. Suddenly, Benoit takes your hand and presses it against his chest. As he stares into your eyes, you feel his heart stop. My heart no longer beats, yet I move, I talk. Is that how God intended us to be? Whoa, I don't believe in the supernatural. Oh my god, you're a vampire, buddy. There's a natural explanation for all of this. We just don't know it. Maybe there is. I don't know either. But I know that Father Anthony's faith is real. Sometimes I'm skeptical too. But in Father Anthony's presence, I know faith is real. I know it because it hurts so much. But perhaps you have questions about faith and our kind? Perhaps we are divine, not damned. Benoit laughs, and for the first time the aura of bitterness enveloping him lifts. You're clever. There are many religious cults among the kindred. Even more among the anarchs. Some of them do indeed believe we are divine. We die, we rise again, just like Jesus. Be careful with that kind of talk, though. You might not know it, but there are always politics attached to every belief. Go into an Elysium, declare your divinity, and everyone around will start making assumptions about you. Sometimes faith is best kept private, even among our kind. Just ask yourself, when you met Father Anthony, did you feel divine? This is a lot to take in. All these myths, hard to know what to believe. I know it's overwhelming. It was for me when I first met Father Anthony. I know there are others like him, whose faith shines like a beacon. Priests, old ladies, children, anyone can have that conviction inside them. This is too much. You expect me to go along with all this insanity. Benoit nods patiently. Let's meet again in a few nights, here at the cathedral. We can talk more after you've thought it through. You leave Benoit sitting in the shadow of the cathedral, contemplating what lies within. It would be easier to ignore his words without the reality of what you experienced. Father Anthony was holy. You know it to be true. But what does that mean? Okay, I'm gonna take a drink real quick, because, oh my gosh, my throat already, jeez. Okay, let's rest. Not long after you wake up tonight, Gregory knocks on the door of your apartment. Hey, I came to pick you up. Miss Langley wants to see you. Those last 2 nights were nice. I had freedom, initiative. Good while it lasted, I guess. He smiles apologetically. Don't shoot the messenger. The car's waiting. Shall we? You wrestle with the same thoughts as a few nights ago. Maybe you should just leave? Disappear? Let Sophie find somebody else to employ? But then you remember the anarch thug being cut down by Kadir and how close you were to that same fate not even a week ago. And that it still might happen if you step out of line. You follow suit. As with your previous visit here, Sophie seems not entirely present when you enter. Her eyes are locked onto one of the paintings in the room. You're pretty sure it was here earlier, but she's behaving as if she's seeing it for the first time in her life, entirely entranced. Gregory clears his throat. Sophie turns to the both of you, a bit of irritation in her countenance that soon gives way to a pleasant, warm smile. You're here. Excellent. Thank you, Gregory. Her driver leaves and she turns her attention to you. I hope you had a good few nights and made some new acquaintances, but I have to say, I'm happy to see you, Jasper. Thank you for coming. The change in mood of the room is so sudden and startling, makes you consider the true power of vampiric charisma. Rationally, you know you're being manipulated, but you don't even care. Her eyes, her motions, her entire body language all feel 100% genuine in expressing legitimate interest in you and your well-being. Oh, yay, we're about to be one of my favorite pieces of shit. I have a request for you this night. I need you to find somebody for me and make a delivery. She points to the statue at the side of the room. You notice a plain-looking flash drive lying on the edge where the inanimate archer's bow touches the pedestal. The man you'll be looking for calls himself Kaiser. Yee! He has eyes and ears all over New York, and it's rare for something to happen here without his knowledge. I'll need you to take this flash drive and bring it to him. In exchange, he will give you an address, which I need to know as soon as possible. You're about to ask what's on the drive, but Sophie proves to be one step ahead of you. Oh, don't worry about the contents. They are encrypted, a precaution for if the data falls into the wrong hands. But it won't, correct? She gives you a smile that, just a handful of nights ago, would have made you feel like melting. Oh, and Jasper. Kaiser is a Nosferatu, that twisted, deformed lineage of kindred. He is old, and his age has made him even more paranoid than others of his clan tend to be. He holds many havens and changes them often. From what I've gathered, he or one of his servants should be found at the park on Coney Island tonight. You'll have to identify them somehow. I'm told Kaiser has spent many of his nights these past few years being driven around the city in a black limo. Maybe keep an eye out for it. That smile again, but much shorter. I'm not sure why you need me for this. Can't you look for Kaiser yourself? Or send Gregory? First off, when you see his face, you'll understand. A sly smile creeps onto her lips. Secondly, I don't have time to play his games and look for his exact location. Last but not least, you will need to meet him at some point anyway. If you do it now, you'll provide your patron with a worthwhile service and appease that leprous grump with a worthwhile gift. Everybody wins, don't you think? She flashes one last smile at you and turns back to the painting, clearly done with the conversation. You pocket the flash drive and head out towards Coney Island. It takes you the better part of an hour to reach the lights and sounds of the Coney Island amusement park from the city. The drive is almost pleasant this time of night. Thank God for Belt Parkway. I imagine this game is a little different if you actually know anything about New York. They keep mentioning, like, landmarks, and I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck that is. There are plenty of people here tonight, but nobody who stands out as a traveling purveyor of secrets. Then again, if they did stand out, it would be kind of pointless, right? Nothing to do but figure out the right approach. Without a better idea, you start looking around. You ignore parents trying to gain a semblance of control over the kids and teenagers smoking weed in the more secluded areas of the park. You try to keep your questions casual. Hey, are you from around here? I'm told a guy named Kaiser lives here. That kind of stuff. The awkward conversations and strange looks you're given speak for themselves. This isn't going to be as easy as you thought. I heard you asking around for Kaiser. Or will it? The guy, wearing an oversized jacket, had the air of a junkie or a dealer. Who knows what he's got in those pockets? What do you want with him? Listen, man, I need you to contact your boss, and I need you to do it now. Quit wasting my time, or things will get unpleasant real soon. He doesn't take that well. He reaches into his pocket, produces a gun. You rush him. Bang. The bullet hits you in the arm and goes out the other side. It hurts, but what would be a debilitating wound for a mortal is just a nasty scratch for you. It takes a bit of brawling. The man's stronger than you'd expect. But using your powers, you're able to overcome him. With a few hits to the jaw, the man passes out from the pain. Ouch, jeez. Searching him, you find a fancy phone that doesn't look like anything readily available on the market. The phone's locked, but a recent smudge on the screen gives you a rough idea of what the combination might be. My goodness. You get it right on the second try. There's just one number in the phone book, unlabeled. You dial it and hear someone pick up. The voice is like a rusty pitchfork scraping against gravel. I can't even envision what the fuck that would sound like. I can't. I've tried. Jackie, you're messing up my snuff session here. It better be something big. Hey, is this Kaiser I'm speaking to? Silence. Not even a sound. The call ends. You try calling again, but the number is blocked. Nothing to do but wait and see if he shows up. Not 15 minutes pass before a black limo stops near where you're waiting. One door opens an invitation. The inside of the limo used to be a luxury lounge, the kind with a stripper pole and a bar full of alcohol, but it currently has none of that. Instead, there are monitors and consoles. There are dozens of displays, each one showing something different. Surveillance, camera footage, stock market quotes, television news, emails, tweets, silent movies, lo-fi footage of a gory torture session. What a freak. You wonder if the limo's owner can focus on anything while surrounded by all this visual noise, and then you realize there's nobody there. Or is there? A man blinks into existence on a leather-covered couch, attempting to maintain something that approximates a regal presence. You're 100% sure. It's Kaiser. Surrounded by dimly lit computer screens, his features are even more ghastly than you imagine. All sharp angles of twisted bone, mangled flesh, and crooked teeth. He bears them in an awful parody of a smile. Something I love about this part is, okay, when he drives up, he's invisible, right? Inside the car. Presumably, he wouldn't just sit around invisible all day when he didn't have to, so he, went invisible as he drove up, so he could have, a grand entrance, you know? I think that's hilarious. He's a showy guy, apparently. Suddenly, somebody grabs you from behind, twists your arm, and pushes your head against the car's roof. I got him, boss. I have him. The Nosferatu chuckles. Oh, congratulations, dickweed. Could have done that before you gave away the fucking phone. Just let him go already. But, you gonna make me repeat myself, you thick motherfucker? He lets you go. You take a look at him. The man is confused and clearly hurting. He flashes you an angry stare, but obeys his boss's orders to the letter. What, are you waiting for a formal invitation? Get in the car. We have some talking to do. The doors close behind you. Well, I'm here and I'm pissed. Unless you've a death wish, I assume there's something you have for me. Do indulge me or start figuring out how to drink blood with your fangs up your shitter. You reluctantly pull the flash drive from your pocket and slowly pass it to Kaiser. He plugs it into a USB port on the arm of his chair and displays the data on one of the screens that happens to be turned away from you. It takes him about a minute to access the data. Let me guess, this is from Langley? She said she'd have something like this. You her new flunky? Blech. Whoa, I messed up that. Let me try that again. You her new flunky? You have to bite your tongue to keep from arguing with the word he chose, but you nod. Who do you people think I am? I saw this footage a week ago. He removes the flash drive and throws it back at you in disgust. Tell Sophie the deal's off. She wants her address, she can give me something else. Oh no, I can't do that, I'm too hungry. Oh no. Come on, give me a break. How could we have known that you'd already seen this material? He gives you a patronizing look. Kid, you're new here, so I'll pretend I didn't hear that. You want your address? You're gonna have to work for it. I have just the idea. Yeah, something appropriate for an eager fledgling like yourself. More on that soon. Stay tuned. Now get the fuck out. You're pretty sure you're done here. You get out, close the door behind you, and the car immediately starts backing up. The opaque windows slide past you, and soon the limo is on its way. Kaiser's lackey is nowhere to be seen, so you make your way to your car and drive back, wondering what tomorrow brings. There he was. That's he's probably tied with D'Angelo, if not maybe even a little bit above him. I think he's fucking hilarious. Like everybody else in this game tries so hard to be serious and regal and, you know, impressive, and they talk all flowery and shit, and he just pulls up, calls his ghoul a dickweed, cusses you the fuck out, and it's just hilarious. He's obnoxious, and I adore it. Okay. I wonder if we would have time to do just a few of Tamika's. I really do like Tamika. Alright, we're gonna do agathons though. We might try Tamika later. You know what to expect when you return to the small bookstore serving as Agathon's haven. The cacophony of occult imagery assaults you from the book covers displayed on the window, but under the fake facade there's something real. This time, the Buddhas and the satanic Bibles of the storefront seem almost funny, or perhaps you've just started to tune into the dry humor of these Tremere. Just as you're about to ring the doorbell, the door opens and Agathon storms out. You step aside just in time to avoid having him stumble into you. Jasper, what are you doing here? Look, I came to help you, like last time. Okay, fine, you're right. Follow me. As he turns to go, Agathon almost looks pleased that you're here. Aww. Agathon walks to his car with you in tow. It didn't occur to you last time, but it's a surprisingly pedestrian vehicle. An aging, mid-sized family sedan. You imagine what it would look like with a baby seat in the back. Opening the door on the driver's side, Agathon notices your look. Laugh all you want, but it's inconspicuous and practical. Haha, you drive a mom van. You sit in the car and Agathon starts driving in his usual careful style. At least you'll never be stopped by traffic cops. It seems Agathon is not interested in small talk. On a beautiful night like this, it's not too bad being kindred. Agathon turns slowly to look at you. Both hands on the wheel in exactly the same position you remember a driving instructor demonstrate to you long ago. Please don't attempt to make small talk. I don't care whether the night is beautiful or miserable. The true energies shaping our world are invisible anyway. He's so fucking funny. You exit Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge, and soon reach the site of the nightclub that seems to be your destination. It's on the riverfront, a converted former warehouse. With a start, you recognize the place. The club where fate latched its cold, grubby hands into your soul. You wanted to party, but instead you became a monster. How's that for a hangover? After Agathon parks the car, it's time for you to enter the nightclub. You glance at the Tremere, evaluating him. It's obvious this is not his kind of place. There's a good chance the research notes are here. So we're looking for research notes? Yes, and that's all you need to know. There's a line into the club. It looks like a popular spot, even if, based on the crowd, this is not exactly a place for supermodels and celebrities. You walk up to the man at the door and smile. Hey, you remember me, right? Mind if we go in? The bouncer looks at you, taken in by your supernatural charisma. It doesn't matter whether he really remembers you or not. Sure, go right in. Have a great night. You walk into the club, ignoring all the people standing in line. The music beats down on you, bringing with it memories of a human existence. The first time you went dancing with friends, when you flirted with someone on the dance floor. This time it's different. You're a predator and everyone around you is prey, tightly packed, twitching sacks of blood and tissue. You sense the emotions all around you, blood tinted with happiness, lust, rage, jealousy, love, a buffet of sensations. Focus. Keep an eye out for trouble while I look for what we came to find. You nod and follow Agathon through the throng, trying to ignore all the warm, fresh, and circulating blood around you. Okay, I'm gonna take a drink real quick, because I feel like my voice might be almost about to go out. I certainly hope not. I am gonna eat. You decide that the opportunity to feed has been handed to you, and it would be churlish to refuse. A young Latino man is dancing close to a beautiful, drugged-out girl. She takes his face in her hands and kisses him on the mouth. You slide close to them and sink your teeth into the man's neck. He moans from the pleasure of the kiss, and the girl assumes it's because of her. You check to see that nobody is watching and lick the wound closed before disengaging and returning to look for Agathon. You find a young, intense woman pointing a finger at his face. Agathon, you traitor. Don't you dare stand between me and what's mine. You look at the woman in surprise. Her appearance stands in contrast with the anger in her words. Juno, you know Aisling will not let you leave with the notes. Perhaps she won't let you leave at all. Juno pulls close to Agathon's face and stage whispers loudly enough for you to hear her over the music. You're still so brainwashed that you care about what Aisling fucking Sternbridge wants. I'm done jumping through her hoops. I don't know what I saw in you, Agathon. You're such a lapdog. Sorry to interrupt, but is this woman your ex? Yes, we used to date. Maybe we still would if you weren't such a fucking coward, Agathon. That's not fair, Juno. It's fair and you know it. You're too busy licking Aisling's boots to realize what we had. Aisling doesn't wear boots. Don't correct me. With a start, you realize Juno is genuinely upset. It's hard to say how long ago they broke up, but the wounds are still there. You're the kind of man who takes the side of his boss over his girlfriend. Juno's eyes glisten red with the blood of her tears. You look at Agathon with uncertainty. It was for your own good. Juno steps back, suddenly cold. Ignoring the people dancing all around, she stares hard at Agathon. The past is past. The traditions are dead to me. You won't stop me, Agathon. I'll make sure of that here and now. You know I have the power. No, Juno, please. Agathon sounds panicked. He's not worried about his own survival, but of the possibility that Juno is going to unleash a genuine masquerade breach. Do I want to use my blood on this? I'm just gonna try to reason. Look around you. We're in a crowd of humans. If you start something here, it will be a masquerade breach. Catching on, Agathon joins in to support your argument. If you break the masquerade, it won't just be Aisling Sternbridge who has it in for you. It'll be Kadir. Juno looks hesitant, worried. After a moment, she backs away. Alright, you assholes. I'll play it cool. She slides into the dancing crowd. You see her move amidst the people, but it doesn't look like she'll start a fight. Give me a few seconds and I'll verify if the notes are here or not. You idle among the dancers, and Agathon prowls clumsily, out of place in the throng. Finally, he comes back to you. They were here, but not anymore. The ritual I performed is very reliable. We can go. Juno will probably waste some time trying to find the notes here, and that'll give us an edge. You leave the nightclub. Outside, you walk to Agathon's car and drive back over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan, heading for Agathon's haven. Juno mentions some very personal things. I trust your discretion in not discussing those things with Aisling. Your love life is your business. Thank you. After a while, you reach Agathon's haven and he parks the car. You walk to the occult bookstore and Agathon invites you inside. The smell of incense assaults you as before, making you grateful you don't have to breathe. You follow Agathon upstairs to find Aisling Sternbridge in an armchair, reading an old book. She puts a bookmark in place as you come in. You were successful, I hope? No, I'm sorry. The notes were there at some point, but not anymore. That's a shame. I hope you don't run out of time. How did Sophie's little protege do? Agathon turns to look at you. Well, surprisingly well. That's a surprise. I'll have to compliment Sophie on her choice. Hey, you can compliment me. We met Juno. Fortunately, she couldn't find the notes either. That's interesting. The High Regent turns to look at you. What was your impression of Juno, fledgling? She was very angry. I don't know what you people did to her, but she's pissed. What we did. Careful now, fledgling. She made her own choices, bad as they were. Anyway, I have some things to discuss with Agathon. Run along now. You leave the occult bookstore, the cheesy mystical music still in your ears as you walk away. You wonder about what happened with Juno. Why is she so anxious to leave her clan? Can she really do that? Could you leave Sophie's service if you wanted to? Sleep time. Or I guess not. You're walking down the street towards your haven. In some other town, the sidewalks would be deserted this time of night. In NYC, there are plenty of passerby going about their business. It's easy to be paranoid when you're a vampire surrounded by a crowd of humans. The kindred have many enemies, and all of those enemies have one trait in common. They're invisible, indistinguishable from normal humanity. Other vampires, hunters, all look like people. Is that old man just a tired restaurant worker, or a kindred thrall tailing your movements? Are the officers idly waiting in a patrol car ordinary cops, or Second Inquisition specialists looking to end undead threats? This kind of thinking leads to madness, but you can't shake the feeling that someone is watching you. It's not the first time you felt like this. Whatever this is, it's probably something you have to take care of. Best case, someone is tailing you. Worst case, you'll be attacked and killed. Unfortunately, being undead has its limitations. The sun is coming up soon, and you'll burn to a crisp if you stay on the streets. You reach your haven and settle in for the day, disconcerted by the idea that someone might know where you sleep. Okay, now we rest. As you wake from your slumber and emerge from your haven for the night, you notice a familiar face on the side of the street, standing on the corner and looking straight at you. It's Kaiser's lackey whom you met recently, Jackie. He nods to you, encouraging you to approach. He still looks kind of rough after your last brawl, but the damage to his face is clearly mended. His hands are out of his pockets, though. A sign of goodwill? That's close enough. Let me guess, this is not a social visit. Kaiser sent you? Don't say his name out loud, idiot. He takes a look around. Uh-oh, this isn't dialogue. He takes a look around just to make sure nobody's listening in on your conversation. Yeah, he sent me. I'm supposed to give you this. He produces a crumpled piece of paper from his jacket pocket and hands it to you. Read it, memorize it, then give it back here. It's a letter. The paper might just be a page ripped out of a spiral notebook, but the handwriting on it is exquisitely detailed and deliberate. It reads, "Time to square your debt with me. Go to the wine shop at 232 Mulberry Street and ask for the 1121 Special Reserve Donatello Negromaro." Oh god, this part's gonna be hard to speak. Oh god. When they tell you they don't have it, say you are a Fidelis Servitor della Famiglia G. Those exact fucking words. And make sure you get the G right. I would fail this because I could not remember that. Or pronounce it. You'll get a bottle. Just take it and leave by saying grazie. Don't ask how much it is or anything else, just walk out. When you have it, come back to Jackie Boy here and let him know. You done? Memorize that shit and hand it over. I don't see what the rush is, buddy. Hey, it's your funeral. I can stand here all night and enjoy a nice sunrise while I'm at it. Not a luxury you have. Just hand me back the letter once you're done. You note the phrases and address mentioned in the letter, then hand it back to Jackie. He immediately reaches for a lighter and burns the letter, putting out the ashes with his boot. Every time I expect him to eat the letter instead of lighting it on fire. I don't know why. Every time. So yeah. When you do what the boss asks, come back here so I can tell you where to go next. I'll be in that alley over there, so find me when you have the item, whatever it is. I don't know, and the boss made it extra clear that I shouldn't care, so I don't. See ya. He shuffles away and leaves you to pursue the lead from the letter. Time to pay a visit to Lita. You arrive at the address mentioned in the note. Not counting local restaurant patrons, the street is mostly empty at this time of night, but curiously, the wine shop is still open. Inside, a small, middle-aged woman with curly hair stands behind the counter in front of a wall filled with wine bottles. There's a door at the back of the room with a small table and chair, occupied by a man in a black faux leather jacket with slick comb-backed hair. He's reading a newspaper but pauses as a little bell rings when you open the door. He takes a sip from a small, steaming cup, then gets back to his broadsheet. Good evening. How can I help you? I would like a bottle of the 1821 Special Reserve Donatello Negromaro G, please. Let me check our stock. She seems to be looking through a database on the laptop sitting on the counter. She puts on a polite smile. I'm afraid we don't have that one at the moment. Sorry. I'm sure you'll find a bottle for a Fidelis Servitor della Famiglia G, right? She raises an eyebrow. Let me see if we have any in the back. The woman leaves the counter and goes through the doors in the back. The man by the table puts down his newspaper and takes another sip from the cup, washing it down with a gulp of water from a nearby glass. He tries to hide it, but there's no doubt he's watching you. About a minute passes. So, how's your evening so far? The man looks at you with a smirk, but doesn't answer. The doors to the back of the store open, and the proprietor emerges with a small, unlabeled, squat bottle of crimson liquid. She gives you an apologetic smile. Excuse me, sorry for taking so long. Turns out we did have it. She offers you the bottle, and you reach out to grab it, but she retracts it. You do know what this is, don't you? Technically, I could succeed and get away from here well, but I also kind of like what happens when I fail. Let me think. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna intentionally fail. Well, this is a wine shop, so it's wine, surely? Something about the face she makes gives you the impression you blew it. The woman looks over to the guy at the table and he stands up. You decide there won't be a better time and snatch the bottle from her hands. The man draws a gun from a side holster, and as you make a run for it, several more gunmen pour from the back. Shots ring out, piercing your undead flesh, but you're fast and most miss their mark. By the time you make it out onto the street and lose their pursuit, you see you have a few new bullet holes to patch up. The bottle is, thankfully, intact. You make your way back to the car cautiously and drive back to your apartment. It takes you some time to find a parking spot, but you finally get out of the car and start looking for Jackie. He's not far from where you parted ways just under 2 hours ago. Got the goods? I got it, but it was a hassle. Oh, boo-hoo. Stick around. I gotta make the call. He takes a few more steps into a narrow space between two buildings, and takes out the same high-tech phone you saw him carrying last time. Hey, boss. Yeah, they have it. Where do I point them to? Okay. Yeah, I'll tell them to go there right away. He puts the phone back in his pocket and turns back to you. Willets Point. Half an hour, so you better step on it. See you around. With only a flippant salute, Jackie starts walking down the street. You make your way back to the car and drive. You had to push the speed limit to make it on time, but you're here. Willets Point is quite a change of scenery. The place is a post-industrial dump, the nearby stadium notwithstanding. You stop your car once you realize that if you go any further down, potholes will kill your chassis? You step out onto one of those gashes in the asphalt, splashing in the ankle-deep water. Kaiser's limo is nowhere to be seen. In fact, the whole place is pretty much deserted, other than the apparent proprietor of a lonely bar, a middle-aged woman, who's just locking the place up. Yum, yum, yum. This is too perfect an opportunity to not take advantage of. She's walking to her car, ready to call it a night when you sneak up on her. She's far too tired to resist your strong hold and swift bite. You can taste the caffeine in her veins, smell the cheap cigarettes in her hair, the old cooking grease in her clothes. She passes out, your assault the closing note of a long day of work. You let her down gently and feel a pang of remorse. You pick up the car keys she dropped and place them in the driver's seat. She'll find an explanation for passing out like this, for sure. The bright lights of a car pulling over down the road illuminate you as you close the door. It's a black limo. Kaiser is finally here, it would seem. Same as last time, the car doors open, but nobody comes out. You know the drill. This time, Kaiser is visible when you look inside. You sit down and close the door behind you. Heard there was a shootout at Mulberry. I told you to stick to the fucking script, didn't I? You have the bottle? Give it here. You hand the bottle over to the Nosferatu. He uncorks it gently, takes a whiff, and puts the cork back in. Yeah, that's the stuff. See, that wasn't so hard. Consider your debt paid. Oh yeah, and also take this. It's what Langley wanted. Also, what the fuck is in that bottle, by the way? I can only imagine that it's something like super fucked up, like infant blood or something, you know? He passes you an envelope with what feels like a thick card inside. Now we're even. Sure, fledgling, if that's the way you want to see it. I'll send Jackie over if I ever need anything else from you. How about that? Time for you to get out, now. He waves you out of the car. With the envelope in hand, you get out, back onto the torn asphalt in decrepit surroundings. The limo slowly drives away. Finally, you can return to Sophie and bring her what she wanted. Gregory lets you in. You hear a shrill, unpleasant laugh, and you realize Sophie's having a guest over. Thomas Arturo. You met in Elysium a few nights back. That shriek is unmistakable. Ah, Jasper, so glad to see you. Tell me, did you two have a chance to talk previously? Thomas speaks up before you can. Why, yes, of course, and such a good first impression you made, too. Miss Langley clearly did the right thing by taking you under her wing. I'm sure she thinks so, too, don't you, Sophie? Why, of course, Of course you do, of course. Well, I believe I must be going. I'll be sure to let the Prince Panhard know your thoughts, Miss Langley. Word for word, or as close as I can remember them. I appreciate it, Thomas. You two enjoy your night now. Goodbye, Sophie, Jasper, Greggy boy. He gives you a sly smile. Sophie's driver opens the door for Arturo, and the guest steps out with a single wave of the hand towards his host and you. The doors close. He's quite the character, isn't he? Yes, quite. But he has his uses. Thomas has clout in court and access to many juicy details on everyone from the prince to the lowliest primogen. It's useful to have him on your side, even if his eccentricity requires some patience. I like him. I think he's cool. Speaking of patience, you've been putting mine to the test lately. Did you manage to contact Kaiser and acquire what I asked for? Yes, I have it, but the data you offered was old news to him. I had to do another job for him before he would give me this card. She retrieved the envelope from you. I'm sure he did. I do hope it wasn't too much of an inconvenience. The worst thing about this entire operation, Kaiser's just a huge prick. She chuckles. Why do you think I wanted you to deal with him? I appreciate your sacrifice, I really do. She opens the envelope and looks at the card. You notice the same lettering you saw on Kaiser's note from before, but can't see the details. Her eyes widen. Yes, excellent. I need to call in some favors. I will likely be busy for the next few nights. You have my permission to show some initiative, my dear Charge. I will contact you soon. With that, Sophie ushers you outside, and you are left to do with the rest of this night's hours as you like. What should we do? I'm sure we probably have enough days just to meet Tamika, you know. I'm gonna risk it. You make your way through the Grand Army Plaza, noting the soldiers and sailors' memorial arch. You can't help but feel a tinge of nostalgia as you picture the place as you've seen it countless times, in broad daylight, teeming with life. You quickly get over it and pass through the northwest gate into Prospect Park. The park is its usual maze of unkempt foliage and dimly lit alleys. Silence hangs in the air, as it would at this time of night, and there doesn't appear to be any sign of kindred presence. You start to suspect Langley's sources fed her a bunch of bullshit, but you're not willing to give up just yet. As you ponder your options, you hear footsteps coming from behind a line of trees, quick but evenly paced, most likely a late-night jogger. No vampire would take kindly to you feeding in their domain, but then again, perhaps you could kill two birds with one stone. Yum yum. You lock on to the sound of footsteps. Predicting the runner's path, you move swiftly, but quietly, to intercept them. You hide behind a tree and wait for your prey to get closer. Mere seconds later, a young man in an off-brand tracksuit trots into view. You notice the buds in his ears, heavy music bleeding through. That should make things easier. Just as the man passes by, you emerge behind him and plant your hand firmly on his neck. He struggles at first, desperately trying to break free of your grasp. But as soon as your fangs pierce his skin, panic gives way to peaceful submission. You feel elated as the warm liquid trickles down your throat. The fresh vitae washes over your senses, sending an orgasmic shiver along your spine. Somewhere in the deepest, darkest crevices of your mind, the beast stirs in its slumber. You stop feeding, just in time. Your hunger satiated, the beast falls fast asleep. You sit the dazed victim on a nearby bench. As the world comes back into focus, you suddenly realize that something is not right. In a split second, the air by the side of your head swirls like a vortex. Driven by sheer instinct, you lean back just as 5 finger-shaped razors cut through the darkness, missing your face by an inch. A clawed shadow jumps back a few paces, preparing to correct its mistake. You catch a glimpse of the assailant. Looks pretty animalistic, all right, but he's not the one you're looking for. For starters, it's a he. Just as he's about to lunge at you, a snarl resounds from the bushes nearby, stopping your foe in their tracks. Out of the shadows emerges a young woman, baring her teeth ever so slightly. She walks over, calmly, her eyes fixated on your assailant. Her presence is enough to make him reconsider attacking you, but not to withdraw completely. He glances over to her, puffing up his chest. Stay out of it, Tam. I smelled him first. Tam, how about that? She raises an eyebrow, but remains silent. Her compatriot turns back towards you. You shouldn't have come here, pretty boy. Excuse me? I'm gonna fuck you up so bad you'll be wearing your tongue as a fucking necktie. Pretty boy. Tamika looks at you expectantly. Alright, boy, let's see if your bite is as bad as your bark. Are we flirting? Clearly taken aback, he looks over to Tamika, as if gauging her reaction. Guess I know who the alpha is around here. A barely visible smile creeps up on Tamika's lips. The man's eyes narrow. Although you can't really see it, you could bet the hair on the back of his neck just stood up. Shut your fucking mouth, pretty boy. You should have run when you had the chance. A fierce growl echoes through the alley, stopping the savage in his tracks. Tamika walks over to her comrade, her fangs glistening in the dim lamplight. She puts her hand on the side of his head, caressing his hair and tugging at his ear, as if she was scolding a puppy. She leans over and speaks in a voice that's firm, yet oddly affectionate. It's okay, Raoul. I'll handle it from here. The male gangrel looks at her with a mix of timidity and resentment. Then he turns back towards you. You want to waste time on this asshole, Tam? Be my guest. Having said his piece, Raoul retreats into the shadows, although if you were to guess, he's likely to stay within earshot. With her companion gone, Tamika turns to you once more. What do you want? Short story. I'm new here and I'm looking for a chance to leave my mark. Maybe shake things up a bit in the process. I could use your help. Why me? Why not? An inkling of a smile creeps across her lips. Let's just get one thing straight. If you're looking for a hired gun, I'm not the type. This is different. I don't think I have that kind of money that I could persuade you. All I have to offer is my help, and someday, maybe, my friendship. Do I strike you as somebody who needs a friend? Yeah, you do actually. For the first time tonight, she seems caught off guard. You decide to press the advantage. Look, I know it's not much, but I sure as hell could use someone to watch my back, so I could watch theirs. So what do you say? For a brief moment, she stands there, motionless, looking straight into your eyes, as if trying to size you up. Finally, she looks away. It looks like she's come to a decision. Just so that we're clear, I don't trust you. I have no reason to. Frankly, you sound more lost than I am. Still, you have that earnest look about you. Naive, almost. I can tell you believe what you're saying. So, I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. I have some outstanding business to take care of. I'll let you know once that's done. Meet me here, and we'll see what you're really made of. And with that, Tamika disappears into the night. That went pretty well, all things considered. Isn't she cool? Like, I know I said I was going with Agathon and D'Angelo, but I'm sort of second-guessing it. Like, what if I went with Tamika and D'Angelo? I love Agathon, but I also love Tamika. Alright, let's go see Benoit. You've started to look at churches differently since your last encounter with Benoit. You're not sure what happened inside, but it was unavoidably real. You felt it. When Benoit mentioned the being in the presence of Father Anthony's face When Benoit mentioned that being in the presence of Father Anthony's faith would eventually kill someone like you, an undead being, you believed him. I don't think he said that. It doesn't seem to be very common, though. In New York, you pass thousands of people every night, and none of them have made you feel so afraid and insignificant. If you were to encounter someone like Father Anthony in the subway or a nightclub, you would know. There are many churches in the 5 boroughs, and you're pretty sure most of them don't contain someone whose faith can touch you in this way. Yet you've become wary. They just might. Still, tonight the cathedral looks as before. A striking landmark, acting as a symbol of faith for people who have no idea that vampires exist in their midst. For them, questions of faith and myth are theoretical or philosophical. For you, those same questions suddenly define the meaning of your new existence. You sneak into the cathedral like an old hand, as if going to church had been a regular part of your life. Inside, the cathedral is almost deserted. You're not sure if you'll be meeting Benoit alone. The idea of Father Anthony's faith on your undead flesh freezes you with terror. Benoit is waiting for you in the front pews of the cathedral, in the exact same spot where you saw Father Anthony. Worried, you approach, but you don't feel the touch of faith that shook you before. Benoit nods as you sit next to him in the pew. Aren't you worried about meeting here? What if your friend the priest returns? Don't worry, he's not here tonight. You've had some time to think. I'm guessing you found the touch of Father Anthony's faith hard to ignore. For most people, God's presence is a question of faith. When I talk with Father Anthony, it feels like proof. Benoit is fervent and tense as he speaks. It's clear these questions have consumed his existence. Perhaps they'll consume yours too. Even if we don't believe, this is kindred culture. Our shared stories about where we came from, right? That's one way to look at it. All religions can be reduced to cultural myths if you are so inclined. Personally, I think the reality of our condition proves that this is a little more than a myth. Proves that this is more than a myth. Benoit looks around reflects it. Give me a moment. Benoit looks around Benoit looks around reflexively to make sure nobody is listening. There are only a few people in the enormous cathedral, and they don't seem to be interested in two loners murmuring to each other in the front pew. It might seem like ancient history, things that happened thousands of years ago, but time works differently for our kind. If the stories are true, there are Methuselahs still in existence who walked the earth when Jesus was alive. The only problem is that old vampires lie. They adjust history to suit their egos. Yeah, humans do that too. Shouldn't we focus on what we can verify here and now? Our blood, the effects of Father Anthony's belief? I suppose that would be the scientific approach. Still, I can't let go of the idea that the old stories will tell us something. This is how the story goes. God cursed Cain as punishment for the murder of Abel. Cain walked the night, shunned by humanity, and drank blood to sustain himself. Even from the point of our origin, we are damned. However, the story becomes really interesting when we move forward. Cain creates more of our kind, often referred to as the second generation. They lived in the first city, later called Enoch, ruling openly over the city's human inhabitants. I see the first city as Cain's redemption. Cursed by God to wander, he remade himself as a ruler and a lawgiver, acting as an immortal shepherd to humanity. It only started to go wrong when the second generation begat the third, and vampires started to run amok. So the third generation, also known as the Antediluvians, who founded the great vampire clans. You can trace a direct lineage of blood to the antediluvian of your clan. I hope I'm fucking saying that right. We know much more about them than we know about the second generation. After the first city, Cain largely departs the story. Perhaps he was disheartened by the depredations of his descendants. The antediluvians went on to build the second city in imitation of the first, but it's doubtful their rule was just. There are people moving in the cathedral, and both you and Benoit have made sure none get close enough to hear you talk. Many of the people you've seen have been elderly or disabled, so it's not surprising that you hear the squeak of a wheelchair. What alarms you more is that you overhear an older woman, speaking with a Russian accent, mention Father Anthony. Let's find Father Anthony and see if he can help us. From what I've heard, he's an exceptional man. You turn to look and see two men and a woman. All three are in their 50s, clearly well worn by life. One of the men pushes the woman in a wheelchair. She's dark-haired and intense, seemingly only half in this world. Yeah, exceptional, but he doesn't like moles. The speaker is shorter of the men, more animated and worried. He was probably a strong man in his youth, perhaps even an athlete. His voice carries a Midwestern accent. We're only interested in whether he likes blank bodies. You and Benoit look at each other. This is bad news. Whoever these three are, they can't be good for you. We need to get out. Let's meet outside. You decide to stand up and walk right past the three mortals, hoping they don't realize what you are. Pretending to be mortal is second nature to all vampires, or at least it should be. Besides, not long ago you were a perfectly ordinary human. You adopt the oblivious smile of someone who doesn't suspect that anything might be amiss in God's house, and take a few steps towards the aisle. Now that you get a better look at them, the three mortals approaching you have the aura of experience about them. They look like they've seen a thing or two and emerged alive. Both men have the stubbles and overgrown haircuts of those whose lives are consumed by an obsession. The woman looks at you casually, then stares. She has a gray quilt on her knees. You've never met a mortal who knew how to deal with the world of kindred. Something tells you that these three just might. Panicking, you turn around and start walking briskly towards the side of the cathedral, away from the three. You don't want to attract attention to yourself, so you pick up a brochure detailing how you can donate money to the cathedral. You pretend to study the leaflet and hope the three turn their attention away from you. The wait seems interminable, but you know that you can't be hurried. Be casual, and you'll make it out. After a while, you sneak a glance and see the three of them where you just were a short while ago, around the front pew. Discreetly, you tuck away the brochure and stroll casually down the side aisle towards the exit. That was a close call. Who were those three? Did you recognize them? I might have, I'm not sure. There's talk of a few tenacious vampire hunters living in the city. One of them is supposed to be a woman in a wheelchair. For a second, Benoit looks at you as if he was wondering whether he should say something. There's one thing I've always wondered about the story of Cain. The traditions of the Camarilla put a lot of faith in the relationship between sire and child. You're supposed to follow the example of your maker. Yet Cain didn't really seem to care for the vampires he embraced. Did he think it was a mistake to create our kind? My sire left me. Is that common among the kindred? Yes, unfortunately. The kindred are selfish and cruel. You know, I'm Sophie's child, and you're her protégé. It's amazing that we share an appreciation for the mythologies of our kind, considering that Sophie has little interest in questions of the spirit. You stare at Benoit. You knew there was something he wasn't telling you, but in all the talk about Cain in the first city, you forgot about it. Now the only question is, what does this mean? Does Sophie know her child is talking to you? Probably not. Don't hold it against me, but I admit finding some pleasure in seeing you suffer the effects of Father Anthony's faith. I suppose that's the demon in me. I understand that you're bitter, Benoit. I'm not your enemy. I'm sorry, I know that. It's just that sometimes I get too tempted by sin. You know, we should meet again. We've talked so much about myth, but maybe that's cowardly when the reality of faith is right in front of us. I'll introduce you to Father Anthony. You nod, unsure whether that's a good idea. Benoit walks away, and you follow his example, not wanting to hang around the cathedral any longer. Okay. I'm considering maybe ending. My throat is hurting like fuck. We can probably get through one more, and then we can end. So, let's do agathons. One of these nights you'll have to buy something. You reflect as you ring the doorbell of the occult bookstore that serves as Agathon's haven. Perhaps something about auras or the tarot. The same sleep-deprived blonde woman you saw on your first visit opens the door for you. Each kindred has their own servants, and Agathon seems to go for the tired Wiccan mom type. He likes MILFs. Oh, it's you. Come in. The woman disappears into the back room, even as you close the door behind you. Lacking any better directions, you make your way up the stairs. At first you thought the chanting was part of the ritual soundtrack that plays in the shop even at night. As you reach the second floor, you realize that it's Agathon's voice. You come up just in time to see him standing in the middle of his ritual paraphernalia with his wrist cut open over a wrought iron stand, holding a blood-red stone. As Agathon chants, blood drips from the wound in his wrist onto the stone. It looks as if it's absorbed into it. It's probably not a good idea to interrupt blood rituals, so you wait in silence as Agathon finishes. A few minutes later, he opens his eyes and smiles ruefully. I've done so many of these rituals. I hope it's not too off-putting for you. Agathon smears a bit of his own blood over the wound, and you see it close. It looks like he does this often. He does this so often he barely pays attention to it anymore. I don't mind. We're all vampires here. That we are. Agathon picks up the blood-red stone from its stand. This is a bloodstone. Could be useful. He doesn't seem inclined to elaborate. Anyway, let's go. He pockets the stone and leads you back down the stairs and outside to his car. Soon you're on your way to Queens and Flushing Meadows, Corona Park. After parking the car, you follow Agathon on foot as he leads you deeper into the park. Coming to a New York park in the middle of the night might have worried you when you were alive, but now it's normal. If someone tries to mug you, it just means you'll have an opportunity to feed. Agathon walks with purpose, as if he knows exactly where to go. You see the Unisphere, a giant metal sculpture of Earth, lit up so park-goers can appreciate it at night. You're not sure how Agathon picks his ritual spot, but he must have a purpose in mind. The sculpture stands in the background, giving his preparations added dramatic weight. Stand watch while I perform a ritual. It'll reveal whether the notes we seek are here. I'll lose control of the incantation if you fail to keep me free of distractions. It doesn't look like there are many people around. You settle in for a boring half hour, while Agathon mumbles and makes strange gestures, spilling drops of his blood at regular intervals. From the outside, the ritual is not particularly flashy. Agathon repeats a mantra under his breath and walks around with measured steps until he stops and turns around, walking back. It looks as if there is an invisible structure he must follow, unseen patterns and limits governing his movements. As choreographies go, it doesn't look particularly difficult to learn, but you suspect there are hidden dimensions of skill and understanding involved. A lone, drunken woman walks towards you. Hard to say what she's doing at the park. She's a little older, white, dressed like a suburban divorcee. What's your friend doing? He's kinda hot. Hey, back off, woman. He's mine. The woman's words are slurred by alcohol, but she seems to have decided that you are this evening's entertainment. Hey you, stop being weird and talk to me. The woman seems determined to walk past you towards Agathon. This looks like just the kind of interruption that he was worried about. Yum yum. Agathon is deeply immersed in his ritual, so why not use the time you have constructively? You walk up to the woman from behind, grab her by the shoulders, and sink your fangs into her throat. Blood tinged with alcohol and horniness flows into your mouth as the woman moans from the sudden pleasure of the kiss. Oh, I need to sit down. Just as you lick the wound closed, the woman collapses onto the ground, swaying, trying to sit upright. Suddenly you hear a scream of rage. Startled, you turn around just in time to see Agathon running at the woman on the ground, his expression contorted with hatred. Did the woman make enough noise to interfere with the ritual? That doesn't explain why he's in such a rage. You step between Agathon and the woman and lift your hands in an attempt to calm him down. What are you doing? This is not you, Agathon. Agathon looks at you, wild-eyed. For a second, you're sure he'll attack you. You see him tensing for a punch. Suddenly, he snaps out of it, shaking his head, looking at the terrified drunken woman in disgust and embarrassment. Thank you. I'm so sorry you had to see that. I don't usually lose control. I know. What was that outburst? It wasn't that woman. That was just a coincidence. Something triggered a ward. We have to go now. Agathon starts running towards his car, and you do your best to follow. Usually, Agathon drives more carefully than most humans you know, but now something is different. He's speeding, honking at every car that gets in your way. You're driving towards the Bronx, and twice Agathon almost collides with another car. He's clearly not used to driving quickly, but something is overriding his usual caution. You screech to a stop in front of a red tile apartment building. Agathon jumps out of the car and starts running, leaving you to take the keys from the ignition and close the doors. Agathon disappears up the stairs, and you follow his agitated shouting. Abuela, it's me, Javi. You get to the 5th floor landing after a run that would have left your mortal self winded, to find Agathon banging on an apartment door and fiddling with his key ring. A few of the neighbors poke their heads out into the hallway, but nobody intervenes. Agathon finds the right key and slams the door open, running inside. You follow, entering what looks like the home of an old Mexican lady. There are portraits on the mantelpiece and a crucifix on the wall. The apartment smells musty with old age, and you detect a faint odor of vampiric blood. Sylvia, where are you? You come to the living room to find a body covered by a blanket in the corner of the sofa. The television is on, but the sound is off. It looks like a Spanish language channel. Agathon tears at the blanket, pulling it away in a panic. He reveals an old woman, waking up in bleary-eyed confusion. Javi? Why are you barging in like this? Who's your friend? You're alive, Abuela. Agathon hugs the old lady and then turns to you. You'll have to introduce yourself. I'll check the wards. Something triggered them and I'll have to see if they still work. Sylvia snuggles deeper into her blankets. This is vampire business, isn't it? Always when there is trouble, it's the vampires. You stare at her, startled. Clearly the masquerade hasn't held in this household. Yeah, exactly. Frankenstein's not far behind. Anyway, I'm Jasper. You must be his grandmother? Frankenstein is not real. He's made up by those people in Hollywood. This is about the girl who came to visit. I can tell. Javi was never good at keeping secrets. So much like his mother. You hear Agathon rummaging around the small apartment, almost as if he's scratching at something on the walls. He's always doing that. Writing on the walls with blood, making runes. I keep telling him to cover them with the photos and the paintings, but he won't listen. I have to do it myself. That explains the faint smell of vampire blood in the apartment. Otherwise, how can I invite friends for tea? They'll ask questions if I have runes all over my walls. It doesn't look like a Christian home anymore. The girl who was here earlier, was her name Juno? Yes, that's right. A pretty name, I suppose. She was just the kind of girl Agathon used to fall for. She was a vampire, too, I expect. You're not a vampire, too, are you? Surprised by the suggestion, Sylvia laughs uproariously, mirth convulsing her aged frame. Oh no, please don't say things like that. I'm an old woman. Laughing hurts. Agathon returns to the living room, still agitated. She wanted to send a message. If we don't let her find the notes first, she'll hurt my abuela. He glances meaningfully at the old woman. No, she won't. She gave me a message for you, Javi. She said to think very carefully whether your clan will really protect your loved ones. That sounds like a threat to me. Agathon stares at Sylvia, stunned and confused. She was here to tell me that? Maybe that's good. It doesn't sound like she wants to hurt you. She was a nice girl. I can tell. Oh, abuela. Jasper, let's go. This is all we can do here. You say your goodbyes, and soon you're back outside, sitting in Agathon's car. What a catastrophe. To think Juno was there. The words trigger when a vampire enters the perimeter, so Juno was there just as I was doing the ritual in the park. I'll take you to your haven. Agathon starts the car and begins the drive towards Manhattan. He appears agitated, emotions coursing under his stoic face. Your grandmother is a very spirited woman. She's all I have left of my family. We came here from Mexico City when my parents were still alive. The kindred have always haunted my family. Every generation has its own tragedies. Agathon is gripping the steering wheel harder than he should, although he's back to his usual careful driving style. I'm sorry this happened to your grandmother, and that you have to fear for her safety. This is what it's like for all kindred who have a mortal they love. The thing is, if you don't want to lose your battle with the beast, you should probably hold on to those relationships anyway, even when it hurts. Agathon drops you off in front of your haven. The experience leaves you with disquieting thoughts. You met Agathon's grandmother under awkward circumstances, but he clearly loves her very much. You don't know enough about the world of the kindred to say whether that's normal or not. It seems to keep Agathon connected to the world in a way that feels alien for some of the other kindred you've met. Perhaps there is a lesson in that. Okay, and I do believe that is where we shall stop tonight. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.